Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I am your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So today, we're gonna get feely. We're gonna talk about all the feely things because I was actually just journaling about this, per usual, and it was interesting to me that it's actually our denial of how we feel that keeps us stuck. So I remember the first time I actually paid attention to this and was like cognizant of what was actually going on. And it was when I first started my personal development journey, which was probably about 12 years ago, was like what I call the official start of it. And I was struggling with anxiety and depression at the time. My husband was in full deployment cycles, was gone. Actually, that was our first year back stateside after being in Sicily for 3 years. And he was gone 270 days-ish out of that first year. And it was a lot. I had 2 kids at the time. I was working on my Ph.D. program. There were a lot of balls in the air. And I was on the struggle bus, mentally, emotionally, physically, like just all the time, right? And I remember that there were things that I thought I was doing that were helping and all the things, but the biggest catalyst for me was actually admitting the fact that I wasn't happy. On the outside, it looked like I had all my shit together, right? Like, my kids showed up to school in clean clothes every day, and I had a smile on my face. I was fairly fit, but inside I was dying. I just didn't like to be around myself. It was exhausting to be me. And it wasn't until I admitted to myself that I wasn't happy that it actually gave me kind of the leverage to begin to change. And oftentimes this is what people actually avoid because they're like, well, I have so many things to be grateful for, and I have this and I have that, and I should be okay. And so they just beat themselves up about the fact that they should be okay, but they're not okay. But the freedom actually lies in being like, you know what? No, this sucks. I don't like it. Because then once you admit to yourself, you stop fighting yourself and you can be like, okay, this sucks. Now what can I do, right? And this is actually a conversation that I have with my husband quite openly. And it was definitely something that we had regularly when he was in the military, and a trip would come up or a deployment would come up or something would come up, and he'd ask, how do you feel about it? I said, well, it sucks, but okay. And he's like, well, that doesn't help me. I'm like, well, it helps me admit to the fact that I'm not thrilled about it. But now that I know, and now that you know that I'm not thrilled about it, we can move past not being thrilled and figure out how we're going to make it through this, right? And so it's okay to admit to the fact that something sucks. It's okay to be like, wow, that is awful, I screwed up. Or, wow, like I don't even know, like I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm angry. I'm like, admitting to how you feel about something frees you up for the next step. Because otherwise you're sitting there mentally being like, well, I shouldn't feel this way, but I feel this way. And now that I feel this way, I feel bad about feeling this way. And then you compound that emotion, and that just makes the whole thing worse. It's okay to be sad, to be mad, to be angry, to feel like something sucks. It's okay. It's a feeling. We're allowed to have them. They're going to come. They're going to come in rapid fire. They're going to come slowly. Like, it's okay to have the feeling. And it's important to feel the feeling, right? Most feelings are really only going to last, I think the study was like 7 to 12 minutes, and 12 is even long, right? Like, most feelings are going to move through you pretty quickly. But if you fight the feeling, then that's what actually prolongs it. Like, if you fight the fact that you feel like a failure, guess what? You're just compounding that feeling, and you're going to feel even more like a failure. But if you're like, wow, that sucked, I screwed it up, I failed at it, okay, Cool, you failed at it. Now what? Right? Like, prime example. I was playing Uno last night with my 7-year-old, and I won the first 2 games of Uno. And maybe you're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe you beat a 7-year-old at Uno. Oh, it's fine. She's okay, right? So I'm shuffling the cards for the 3rd game, and she's upset that she didn't win the first 2 games. And I said, it's okay to be upset, right? Like, I said, but pay attention. Let's talk about how Mom plays the game of Uno. And she goes, well, how? And I said, well, what kind of card did I have to win? And she said, well, you had a colored card, a +4 colored card, right? So like the wild card, that's a draw 4. And I said, yes, that's what I had. I said, and that's how I won both games. I said, what I do is I hold on to those wild cards when I get them so that they're my last couple of cards so that they can't be beaten. And you could see the wheels start to turn in her head, right, as she was thinking about this. And she says, well, what if you don't have one of those cards? I said, well, throughout the game, I'm bound to pick up more cards. And so if I get one of those cards, I just hold on to it. I don't use it. Well, what if you need to because you don't have another color? I said, I don't. I just pick up more cards because I want to have this one at the very end of the game so that I can win. And you can see her begin to start to contemplate this, right? She's no longer upset that she lost. She's now trying to strategize how she's going to win the next game, right? So I finished shuffling the cards. She asked me a couple more questions, and I deal the cards. And the 3rd game was much longer than the first 2. And she ended up beating me with a +4 wild card. And I just had to laugh because not only did she feel that she was upset the first couple of games, but she was able to very quickly adapt and be like, I've got a new strategy here. Now I can win. And she beat me in the 3rd game, right? So I say all of that because it is all right to be pissed off about something. It's okay to have your feelings hurt about something. It teaches you, right? So if somebody hurts your feelings and they do it repeatedly, 1, you got to look at your boundaries, or 2, change the people that you're hanging out with, right? Like, our feelings are giving us some insight into things. Now, we don't necessarily have to read into all of them that deeply, right? Some of them are fleeting where you're like, ow, I stubbed my toe, right? Like, we don't need to read into the fact that we stubbed our toe. That's going a bit extreme. However, if there's feelings that are coming up around the same sort of thing, it's important to look at it. And I talked about this on a previous episode in terms of like money. If every time you open your bank account, you feel anxious, it's time to look at that. And it's time to say, you know what? I actually feel really anxious around money. Okay, why? Well, maybe your financial literacy isn't as great as it should be, right? Or maybe you're like, I don't know what else to do in terms of my money, but I feel like I'm in a bit of a rat race, right? And so if you have these repeat feelings coming up, it's important to spend some time and look at it. And it's okay to be like, you know what? I'm anxious around this. I don't like talking about this. It doesn't sit well with me. Okay, why doesn't it sit well with you? And dig a little bit deeper. Have a conversation. Be open to another way. But your feelings are there to guide you, right? Certainly to an extent, right? Now, there also comes this maturity where you're like, I don't want to do it. But when you're an adult, you're like, well, I'm going to do this because here's where I'm actually headed, right? And so you have to have these conversations with these repeat feelings that coming up, right? To decide how to best move forward. You don't always have to have a conversation with the feelings, but if they are showing up repeatedly, you're gonna want to look at it. Why does this keep coming up? Why do I keep feeling this way around this thing? Why do every time I get into this situation with this person, why do I feel like this? And look at it, right? So, it's okay to feel all the feels. They're going to help you if you let them help you. And it's also okay to admit that something sucks, right? You can just be like, you know what? That situation sucks. It's crappy. I don't like it. Okay, cool, right? This was a pivotal point for me when I admitted to the fact that I wasn't happy. Okay, what I was doing wasn't making me happy, so it was time to change the dang formula. Because all that formula, what I had, wasn't working to make me happy. Okay, so how can I bring in more happiness and joy into my life since that formula is clearly not working? It gave me a chance to reflect and look at it. So, it's okay to feel the feels. They're just going to guide you. Okay? You don't have to read into all of them, right? Some of them are allowed to be fleeting. Okay? But again, if there is a repeat feeling coming up around something, it does warrant some deeper thinking, some contemplation about it. Why do I feel this way around that? Why does this person make me feel this way? Why does this relationship feel like this all the time? And you just might need to change the relationship. You just might need a new formula. So I'm going to sign off here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And if you are interested in private coaching and breaking through some of these BS stories that we talk about all the time on here, I would love if you would reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on my website, stephaniesnyderphd.com. All of that information is in the show notes for you. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And as always, be you because the world needs more of you. Bye, love.